Which, if it says Lech Lecha, it's a mistake. What do you have there? Well, Vayero. Good, because I see I have some Lech Lechas, which are not relevant. Beseder Gomer. So Rabbi said we'll start, right? Okay, first there's a push-up shot and then we'll start. Okay, so first of all, Shalom Aleichem to everyone. Sorry for missing the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago was still Ben Azmanim. No? Was it? And last week I was at a chasna in America of my chavrusa, Yoel Adler, who got remarried in America. So I was there. We're chavrusa already for over 18 years. Beseder. So we'll start. So what does it say? V'Hashem pakad desara kasher omar. Amos, that's enough. V'yasla kasher diber. It's not mentioned here. But, so let's look at the Rashi first. V'Hashem pakad desara. Right? Says Rashi. Samach parsha zu. This parsha is juxtaposed. Lelamdecha. To let you know. Shekol ha'mavakesh rachamim al chaveroi. V'hu tzech lo yiseh davar. Hu nana tchila. If anybody is asking, davening on behalf of his friend, and he needs the same thing as well, hu nana tchila. First, shenemar vayispalel. That's what we see on the page on the second line. Vayispal Avraham el Elokim. V'samach leiv Hashem pokad. Shepokad kvar. Meaning, the Sarah was nifkad. Koidem sheripas Avimelech. Before the cure of Avimelech. So first, before we go into the Rashi itself, the Maral has a kasha. Let's give a look on page 2. Right? On page 2, we'll see the Gurai. So what does it say? Samach parsha zu. This parsha is juxtaposed to here. Hikshar ra'em. Da'kam This is where it happened. There's no other place to have it next. After this parsha. Look what happened. Shari HaMelachim bisru et Sarah bepesach. The Malachim let Sarah know. ואחר כך נהפכו הכרכים. ואחר כך נתעברו בנות לוט מאביהם. ואז נסע אברהם משם בשביל לוט שיצא עליו שם רע. ולפיכך נלקחה שרה. Because he went to Avimelech's area. ואחר כך זכר, והשם פקד את שרה. אם כן, כאן מקומו. This is where it belongs. What's the kasha of Rashi? Well, how could you learn anything from Somach Parsha Zul? Usually you say it if it's not mentioned in its place. But here's the place. There's no need for Chumash Teneboch. There's no need for Chumash. No, look ashur. Here's the place. It's the place here. Look, he's going through the sequence. He shows you. Play by play, this is what happened. He's going through the last prakim. Pashat, that's what happened. That was the Seder Advarim. So, Gitzer, whatever is written in the Torah, that's the order. So what's the kasha? The kasha is not how come you don't bring other things. That's not the kasha. The kasha is, this is where, you want to bring this down, this is where and when it happened. So what's the kasha? Rabbi Lo Mizrahi asks this kasha. Give a look at Boisai and number 1. אם כן, בתזווה בניסן בישר המלאך את שרה, בט"ז בו נהפך סדום, וניצל לוט עם שתי בנויסיו, מיד נסע משם אברהם, ושם לוקחה שרה, ובראש השנה נפקדה שרה, הרי שכל הסיפורים הללו נמשכים זה אחר זה על הסדר. This is what happened. ומהו זה שאומר סומך פרשה זו? That's what he asks. Okay? What? I'm sorry? What is the kasha of Rashi? Absolutely. B'diuk. Okay, I'll be sorry. Yeah. Okay. Beseder Gomel, we say. I'll just put this here. It just reminds me, a parent called me up last week. Okay. A parent called me up last week and he told me that the following, and I lost the beat on it. I said, how many children do you have? He says, 2 sons and 2 daughters and, is this the third thing? He tells me I have 2 sons and 2 daughters and, but then he said again, a son. So he meant the sequence. I first had 2 sons, and then I had 2 daughters, and then I had a son. He meant to say 2, 2, and then 1 again. Fine. But meaning he's just saying the sequence. The sequence is okay. I was afraid because he was dividing it, the boys, girls, and mashu shlishi. I lost the beat on that one. But anyway, so that's what normal is kasha. It's normal. This is the place to mention it. So what's your kasha? Look at the model answers. Venire, ki eina pirush sherashi lavad min smichus apashas. It's not that Rashi is saying why is it written here. And look at the raya that it brings. Shari lo amar samach parsha zu le parsha shel mala. When you want to speak about 2 parshas which are juxtaposed to each other, look at number 2. K'fi shekos parshas Nazir. Lama nismach parshas Nazir le parshas Soista. V'chen lama nismach parshas Meraglim le parshas Miriam. He didn't say that. Rather, what did Rashi say? Rak amar somach parsha zu, shesomach ota b'lashon v'Hashem pokad, v'havel lemichta v'yivkod Hashem et Sarah, aval Hashem v'Hashem mashu be'inyan shel mala, hakosu lifnei zeh, pakad Sarah. It's written in the oifen of juxtaposed. But there's always v'chibur. That's on the kuda. No, but it's saying the chiluk between v'yivkod Hashem v'Hashem pokad. In both cases, you have v'chibur. But he wants to point out, it doesn't say Vayifkod Hashem, which is normally what should be written. It says V'Hashem Pokad. Like we know in the Gemara. What's the difference between Omar Rava and Rava Omar? No, come on. Yosef, what's the difference? Omar Rava or Rava Omar? No. Rava Omar is arguing in the previous point. Omar Rava could be a new point. Omar Rava, you Shalomidahas, a new sugya. Rava Omar is yachsus to what was said before. The Hashem, when the name comes first, whatever the reason is, that's how it is. The Mahal's going to explain it. Give a look. וחילוק גדול יש בין ויפקוד ובין והשם פוגד. כי ויפקוד אף אגב שגם שם, גם יש כמו בחיבור, ונכנס כזה, הוו מחבר זמן הפקיד, הזמן המייסה, it's the same time. וזה כאשר יבוא וו על הפועל שהוא פקד, אז הוא מחבר מייסה זה אל זמן מייסה הראשון. אבל כאשר הוו על השם, לא ייתכן לפרש כמו וו החיבור. רק מדבר בעניין שמעלה, בקיצור, good over זה. Whatever the explanation is, that's what Rashi meant. Rashi's not asking why is this parsha following that parsha. Then he would have said Samach Parsha Zul or Parsha Zul. Rather, Rashi is saying why is the opening of this parsha in a smichus, in a way that's really. It's so gewaldig, guys. Medaglos Rashi. You know what? I get a big chizuk for them. He was such a deep thinker, and everything was so amok, but he did not overlook Pashup Shat. Hashem Pokat, Vayifkod Hashem. He's ticking all the boxes. Right, Oshachaim? Good. Now, so let's go to what he's saying here. Let's go back to Rashi again. Okay, that's where I learned from. So what does it say? Samach parsha zu, ללמדך שכל המבקש רחם על חברו והוא צריך לא יסודו הוא נענה תחילה. He'll be answered first. שנאמר ויספר לאברהם אבינו דם לפני אבימלך, that he should have children, וסומך לב השם פקד, שפקד כבר קודם שריפא את אבימלך. Rabbi say, I want to ask a question. I understand it's nice to say that when Reuben davened for Shimon and Reuben needs the same thing, Reuben also will be answered. Hi, is davening only for Shimon? Tchila? Is that so important? You know, over here it's a question of days. Sarah's barren already for a few decades. You know what? She was answered before Avimelech. Avimelech was on Tuesday and she was on Monday. And the whole Arichos of Rashi is to bring that. It says, V'Hashem pokat, and not V'yifkod Hashem. That means it happened earlier. V'Hamespar bat chaver, v'hu tzach lo yisadover, hu na'ana, not hu na'ana gamken. Hu na'ana tchila. Why is that such a big deal? I mean, is that important? if it's 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later? Or a day? She's barren already for 40 years. And she was answered on Monday, not on Tuesday. Ha ha. Zika Shuv? The household boys over there. Zika Shuv? What's up? Really, that's so important. Something's going to be 5 minutes earlier. It has to be with Avimelech. I mean, Mamash was speaking about days, maybe even less. Sarah was cured before. After being barren for 40 years, she was answered on Monday, not on Tuesday. See, it's a day earlier. Is that such a chashuv nekuda? Does that make the nest bigger? Makatupu. What's that gusha here? What's that gusha that's earlier? Okay, gets it. What's that gusha? Nana tchila. She was answered before, and that's the whole arichas of Rashi. It says Hashem pokad not b'yivkod Hashem. She was answered before Avimelech. Look at the last words. Kodem sheni pas Avimelech. It was a day earlier. Ha. Not the same day or a day later. A day earlier. Yeah. Is that so important for the Torah to convey? I understand that. I understand your side. You're down for someone else, you don't lose out. Zani Mivin. So if the Lashon of Chazal would have been a Mispar Bat Chavero, V'hu tzarich l'sador hu gam ken nana, fine. That's a Chiddush. Nana tchila? What are you coming to emphasize? What's the rebusa in the tchila? Ma nekuda. Okay, let's go on. Okay, Rabbi Yisrael. The tefillah is gewaldig. Of course she'll be nana, but it makes enough given if it's Monday or Tuesday. That's what we're talking about here. It's Rosh Mamash, Rabbi Yisrael. I have to make the cheshbon into Sim Chazal. It's a question of a day or two before. That's what we're talking about. It's a dafkamin of a day or two. And that's the whole adgosh of the Rashi. What does that ask? Alive and kicking? Good. Beseder, I want to understand what's the rebusa by saying tchila. Is that make it a bigger ness, a bigger koich of tefillah? She was barren for 40 years, and she was answered on Monday. Abimelech was on Tuesday, so she's a day earlier.
Can I just ask a question? Just not your numbers, but he wasn't Osa Dova. It wasn't exactly.
No, so Rashi explains it's a 7 day. Abimelech couldn't have children when he had the plague.
No, okay, because that wasn't a problem.
No, because Chazal are comparing it. Okay, that's a fact. It's opening the pipes here, opening the pipes there. I don't know exactly what it was. There's a similarity of enough. You're right, it's not exactly. But it says Vayisteldu. Right? Good.
Rashi's saying Klal here for everybody, not just them.
Yeah.
It happens to be that it's 1 or 2 days, but it could be 20 years.
Okay,
It could be something else.
That's not what we know. We learn Rashi deeper. It has to be deeper. It has to be a chiddush here also. It can't be it's a chiddush in other places. Here it's not a chiddush. It's chiddush elsewhere. There's a message here. What's the message? Come on, Chema. We're learning. We're in the Besmedrish of the Maral already for how many years? Alia, how many years are we learning here? Baruch, how many years are we here? 15. 16. Wow. Here, Rabbi Yonason. Rabbi Yonason has new glasses. Yeah, he has new glasses. Give a look. Kol yom yu beinecha kechadashim, I told him the other day. Okay, it's a cool look. Okay, Rabbi, so let's put that question meanwhile on the back burner. What's the rebusa of tchila? What are you coming to tell me? Or even earlier. What's your point? Again, you want to say that there'll also be a reply, and I understand. I might have thought otherwise. Reuben's doubting for Shimon, so maybe only Shimon will be answered. The chiddush is even Reuben's also answered. That I understand. It's a chiddush. He'll be answered before. What are you coming to say with that? What's your adgosh on that nekuda? Okay, let me say. Now let's go weiter, and we'll see page 3. 17 psukim later, the first line on the top of the page. Pasuk Yudzayin. Vayishma Elokim es kol we're speaking about that. Just the background. I'm sure we all know it. What's happening here? Yishmael was thrown in the desert. He's 70 years old. He had fever. He's about to die from thirst. Hagar, his mother, is not about to die from thirst. She's not in such a sakana, but she's crying for her son. The first 2 words on the page is koil vatefk. She's crying. And look what it says. Vayishma Elokim es kol anar. ויקרא מלאך אלוקים על הגר מן השמיים ואמר לך הגר אל תראי כי שמע אלוקים אל כל הנער באשר הוא שם. So says Rashi, where the error is, את כל הנער, מכאן שיופי תפילה סחולה מתפילה סחרים עליו. The tefillah of the choile is yafe. How would you say yafe in English? Yafa, tefillat choile. What do you mean yafa? Well, preferable. I guess here it means preferable. The he kodem ditkabel will be answered first. Look at this sifsech on the bottom, between the arrows. The av shegam he, meaning Hagar, the mother, bachta, kedichti vatisa kola v'tefk, mikom makom shama elokim et kol anar, v'lo el b'chiat imo. Is there any contradiction here between these two Rashis? Why l'chulur there is? Let's look at these two Rashis. Rashi number one is saying when you daven for someone else, it's gevaldik. You'll be answered first, and you're going to be. That's Rashi number one. Rashi number two says, when someone here Hagar is davening for Yishmael, and Yishmael is davening for Yishmael, the tefillah of the choila is preferable. A little bit minimizing the tefillah of the other person. What? Meaning, yeah.
So she didn't eat it. That's a
100%. So meaning it's not a stira. It's not.
You live it down the same time, but
Here's another one. Yeah. Meaning it's not a stira. You know what would have been a stira? If Avimelech davened on himself, and Avram Avinu davened for Avimelech, and Hakadosh Baruch Hu heard Avram and not Avimelech, that might have been a little bit of a problem, right? But over here, but meaning here, like what Rich is saying is very true. Here, Hagar doesn't need it herself. She's not in danger of dying from thirst. She wasn't sick. She wasn't ill. That's what Rashi said. So, right? So it's two separate things, right? It's two separate nekudas. Nekuda number one is that when Avram is davening for Avimelech, his wife will be answered first. Point number two is, if there's two people davening for a choile, and the other person davening is Eino Tzach Lo Yisodova, right? And you know what? And let's just play it out. And what would have been if Hagar would have needed Yisodova? So she would have been answered first for herself. But still Yishmael's tefillah might have been accepted first regarding Yishmael. So, right? It's because it may look as a contradiction, but it's not at all a contradiction. It's thinking of circumstances totally. No, it says no. Kodemet litkabel. It says kodemet litkabel. Says Rashi in number two. Yeah, that's what kodemet means. Come on, kodemet means earlier. To Hagar's tefillah.
The answer is Yishmael getting the water. There is only one answer.
There's one answer, which tefillah was accepted.
So it comes quicker. It's not before the other tefillah. There's no
Kodemet.
first and second.
There is. It says kodemet litkabel. Manegid. כתוב קודמת להתקבל.
But that means faster, not first. Because there is no second. So what's the
There is a second.
So what was the second?
Hagar's thing was also accepted, but we already dealt with it in the first one. And by that. Okay, so there's no steering, guys. We can work it out. It's 2 points of tefillah. Nachon? Again, nochamal. When the choyle is davening for himself, that's the best. That did not happen in the first case. Avimelech did not daven for himself. He was the choyle. He didn't daven for himself. Avram Avinu davening for him only. It's one tefillah. And when Reuven's davening for Shimon only, he's the only davener, and Reuven needs the same thing as well, he'll be answered first. That's one point of view. And the other point of view is when there's two people davening. By Avram, there's only one person davening. When there's two people davening, Hagar and Yishmael, so whose tefillah will be accepted first? The choyle. I want to ask a question though. What?
One is one person davening, one person against two is two against one, 2 for 1. That's also different.
What do you mean? Avram Avinu is davening for Avimelech.
There's 2 people involved there. There's 2 people you refer, whereas this one is 2 people davening for 1 person.
Right. Okay. Good. Beseder Gomor. I still want to ask a question. If two people are about to enter surgery, and another 90 seconds, they're both being wheeled in. Reuven and Shimon, and they're both having the same surgery. What should they do? What would you recommend them to do? Each one should daven for himself? Or each one should daven for the other one? Think. Think, Chavla, think. Don't answer in 1 second. We got 2 Rashi's here.
Same surgery, different.
Surely the first
And
Rashi
they're both ill.
is talking about where you already needed the thing. Not that at this point in time you suddenly have that need.
Okay, the need was earlier, so what?
It's not the right example. Here they're both coming to say at the same time.
So what? Is that a chiluk mechalik? It's a chiluk, but it's not mechalik.
Because you've already done your tefillah before.
Well, let's say he did daven before. I don't know. It doesn't say that Avraham Avinu davened for Sarah. Maybe he did. I'm sure he did, but that's not the point. That's not the point. Rabbi said, what would you think a second? No, come on, think a second. I'm going to stand up, Yosef, if you don't mind, so they'll see my stomach. So, okay, so you want to maybe do it? See what you can do. Rabbi say, no, come on. What would you recommend to these 2 cholim? Think, please. One, please take both Rashis and tell me what do you decide. One Rashi says the best tefillah is the cholim for himself. That's the second Rashi. The first Rashi says it's very good to daven for someone else if you need the same thing. What would you tell these cholim to do? I think I would be in a dilemma between the 2 Rashis. Rashi number 1 says, if you need something and you daven for Yenim, you'll be answered even first, but chose daven for someone else. And by the way, that's what Rabbi Pesach Kohen says. He has a bunch of stories. They told 2 women who are barren, you daven for her, and she'll daven for you, and it will be Gavaldik. That's what he told them to do. But I think that's ignoring the second Rashi. The second Rashi says, when there's 2, the tefillah of the chayla is the best one. But let's focus a second.
Yeah, but she davened also for the choile.
Okay, but let's focus a moment on the second Rashi. Why is the tefillah of the chayla more? Because it comes from a broken heart. A chayla feels his pain more than others do. When you daven for others, it's not the same intensity as you're davening for yourself.
Mother for the son.
Even more than a mother and a son, even more. Meaning, let's give it numbers to make for clarity purposes. When you daven for someone else, it's 3 on the Richter scale. When you daven for yourself, it's 8. 8 and 3. So the tefillah of the choile is coming from mamash lev nishbar v'nitke, and like Richard said before, Hagar was not utzach le'sadavar. So you know what, right? I'll give you a mashal in a minute. So I would say, Misvara, I would tell them each one to daven for themselves. Because that's 8. But if they're going to do like this, it will be 3 and 3. I prefer a tefillah of 8 than a tefillah of 3. Nachabal, when you daven for yourself, it's 8. What's the deal of Rashi number 2? The tefillah of the choile is more than the others davening for him. Why? Pasha, because he feels it more. He's the victim. He feels his pain more than anybody else does. With all due respect to other people sympathizing and connecting. But it's not like what the person himself feels. When you daven for yourself, it's mamish kol atzmoi seitomarna. When you daven for someone else, kol hakavod, it's a very nice tribute, but it's not like davening for yourself. We all know the chiluk when you daven for someone else, when you daven for yourself. There's a chiluk. I'm giving for clarity purposes 3 and 8. So if you have 2 people now that need the same thing, should they go like this, or should they go like this?
If they know the potential.
Let's say if there's not enough time for both. Obviously, if there's enough time for both, do both. Do for another 100 people.
His nana tefillah in this instance is not really so important, is it?
Okay, the nana tefillah won't be that important, 100%.
It's more important than
But nevertheless, what would you recommend to these cholim to do?
Is that
Seeing as they know the patterns, if they each daven for each other, it'll be 10 and 10.
I don't know.
Is there a difference between Nene Tchila and being discovered? Is it
No, the Pasha's
the
not.
same thing?
The same thing. The Pasha's. Kodemis Niskab, I don't say chilek. If there is, maybe I'm not aware of it. But it could be. What would you tell these 2 people to do? Look, yes?
down for both?
He has, guys, please, Chavle, come on. He has time for one. That's the case. Come on. He has time for one. He has 15 seconds left. And he can daven only for one. That's what, of course, if you can daven for 2, it's better. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about, let's say there's time only for one. What should he do?
Are we assuming that's davening to somebody else because you want
No,
to
if
do
you-
the same thing is
I don't know if that's so genuine. That sounds a little bit tricky.
It does.
So,
there's no question.
let's say he's not davening for the other person that for his sake. He's not. He's down for the other person. He's putting his own interest on the back burner.
Well, should,
Yeah. Let's say that's the case.
then he should daven for himself. There's no question anymore.
He should definitely what?
Then he has to daven for himself.
Okay.
What's the shayla? At that point in time, what's the question?
Okay. So you're saying it's pasha. He should down for himself. Why? Because it's a broken heart.
No, what's the question?
Because there's an unbound when you're down for someone else. When Avram Avinu down for Avimelech, did he do it because he wants to get Sarah pregnant?
No.
I don't think you knew it yet.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's not. There's no ulterior motives here. It's all Hashem Shemaim. What should they do? Baruch is very quiet tonight. Baruch, what's the story? I'm thinking. Good. Beseder Chiller. This is like crooked, Matek.